Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Praise and glory belongs to Allah, the eternal absolute, who created everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is Al-Hadi, the guide. Allah, who is Al-Hakim, the one who is wise. The one who is Al-Alim, who is all-knowing. Allah indeed gives the guidance, the knowledge, and the wisdom. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First I'd like to say, may Allah give you health if you do not have health, and may He keep you healthy if you are not healthy. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That's the third salam. So, this is just going to be a reminder about Musa and Pharaoh. So when we look at the story of Pharaoh, Pharaoh in Arabic, Musa in Arabic, Moses in English, we see that Pharaoh, he grew up among, we see Musa, he grew up among Pharaoh. He grew up among the rich. Okay? So, as you see what its title is, it's called, I think I put Musa, Pharaoh, and class. Or it's a reminder about the class. And what I mean is by classes itself. Like the classes that happen in society, where you have the rich, you have the poor, you have the well-to-do, you have those who are low. Now, if we look into the story of Musa and Pharaoh, we see something. We see that Musa did not have a chance to really grow up with his people. His people were the poor. His people were the low, right? And Pharaoh had taken Musa into his family, right? And grew him up among the rich class. So understand this. Musa was not a person that really was around his people. Musa was around the people of Pharaoh a lot. He grew up among the rich. He grew up among those who, had the wealth, had the power. Musa did not have to identify with his people if Musa did not want to. Musa more likely did not even speak the vernacular, meaning that the way that his people spoke, in the way that they spoke it, he spoke like the people of Pharaoh spoke, right? So that was his identification, was among the people of Pharaoh. Now Musa, he was not I would say a selfish man, a selfish person, right? He's still inside his mind, although he might not have grown up among his people, although he might have been detached from his people, although he may have not been around his people that much, although he was among the rich, he was among the wealthy, he was among those, who didn't have to worry about everyday life. And what I'm going to do with saying this, I'm going to compare it to nowadays, how the people, any oppressed people, especially the people in America, the black people, are oppressed. Okay? We have a people here who have our own lingo, our own culture, our own style of speaking, right? Most of us are in the ghettos or not well-to-do, right? So Musa represents a person who was taken away, who became detached away from his people, detached away from the way that his people may have talked, the way his people may have thought, even the vernacular that his people may have spoke. And he grew up among the rich class. He grew up among what we want to call the high suburb class, if we want to call it that. Okay? So his identity was really with the rich and the powerful. So Musa himself didn't have to go through what his people went through. He didn't go through the oppression that his people went through. He was spoon-fed. He was raised up. He spoke proper language. You see, he spoke the proper ways of the society because he was among the rich. So he wasn't even with his people, right? And there's a point of me saying this. He was from a people, but he did not grow up like his people. He was from a people who were oppressed. He was from a people who were the most lowest in society, the most oppressed in society, but he didn't grow up among his people. He grew up among the rich, right? His mentality was that of the rich, because when you grow up among a certain type of class, that is the mentality that you come from. But Musa, right? Musa began to identify with his people. Although Musa himself never went through what his people went through. Remember, his mother was inspired to put him inside a basket and sent him into the water, and he became separated from his people, and he grew up in the house of Pharaoh. So as he was growing up in the house of Pharaoh, he grew up in his environment of a rich person, of a person that spoke proper, of a person who had the mentality of a different culture, not the culture of his people, right? But Musa, regardless of that, regardless that he didn't go through the oppression that his people went through, he still mentally attached himself to his people. He didn't grow up with his people, but he mentally attached himself. He knew, okay, these are my people. But Musa was not like his people because Musa was rich. He was among the wealthy class, and his people was among the poor. When you exist in a poor class, when you exist in an oppressed class, your mentality is different than the rich. Your viewpoint is different than the rich. Your viewpoint of the world is different than the well-to-do. Musa grew up among the rich. His mentality was that of the rich. His understanding was that of the class that he grew up in. With the exception that Musa identified, although he didn't go through the same oppression, he identified with the pain of his people. If Musa wanted to, he could not even care about his people. Why am I mentioning this? Because today, inside our society, among blacks, we have some people that feel that they are somewhat well-to-do. They don't grow up among their people. They live out in the suburbs, way suburbs somewhere, right? And there may be a few who, like Musa, start to look at their people and say, I know I don't go through stuff that they go through. I know that, I've been raised differently, I know that I don't even speak like how they speak, using whether it be slang or vernacular or whatever. But I know that these are my people. So what ends up happening? Musa, so to speak, as he's coming from the rich class, goes down to the ghetto. As he goes down to the ghetto, he sees someone from his people being oppressed. So what is he? He's fed up. What does he decide to do? He strikes a man. He strikes an Egyptian who is not from his people and kills him. Well, that was a real big violation. That was a great violation because Musa was among the rich class. What you care about these poor people? What you care about these low-life people? Right? And in between me mentioning this, I have to say this. Well, you got people from among our people who, if you do not grow up from the hood, and then I have to bring this out, who if you do not grow up from the hood, and you are black, and you maybe have been raised up different. Maybe you didn't raise up in the ghetto. Maybe you didn't raise up in the hood. Maybe you didn't raise up speaking the slang. Maybe you didn't raise up going through the struggle of the people. But when you stayed out in a suburb with a higher class and you decide to go down to help your people, that man, that woman is not going to speak the same vernacular or sound even right speaking the vernacular of the people that grew up in the hood. They might try to sound like the hood, but they're not going to sound right. Right? They're just trying to fit in so that way they can, be able to help in the way that they want to help. Right? And so our people sometimes are closed-minded because we expect everyone to help us in the struggle, to have the hood mentality or have the slang mentality, speak in a slang manner. Right? So when somebody comes from the suburbs, when somebody comes back to the hood and tries to help, some of our people clown them. Right? Man, you ain't been here. You don't know what we go through. See? You don't know what we go through. You ain't been here. Right? So, you coming from the suburbs, or you coming from a high class living. Who is you? Can't tell us nothing. He may not be able to tell you specifically that specific issue, but he is your people. And he does, or she does, have the heart to help. Right? So I use that as an example of Musa. Musa's from the high class. He grew up with the Egyptians. Or if you want to say here in the United States, or anywhere where there's I'm going to put the dichotomy out there, the black and white issue, where most of the white people are, are well-to-do. Okay? And some blacks grow up among them, but they no sellout. They see their people, they want to help. You see what I'm saying? They want to help. They feel the pain when they see what they see. They're not going to be talking the way that we talk. You see what I'm saying? They're not going to sound right using the type of slang because they ain't grow up like that. See? But they just trying to relate on that level. They can relate on sort of the pain level, but they can't relate to everything in the culture because they didn't grow up in that culture like that. Right? So I use Musa as an example. He grew up among the high class, among the different people. Right? And he came down and he saw one of his people being oppressed. And Musa the one that rose up among the rich. Musa the one who rose up among the high class. Musa the one who didn't even have to care about his people. Musa had his money. He had his treasures. He didn't have to worry about nothing. He was set. He was good. He gave that up. He's like, you know what? I'm about to put this to the jaw. So he struck a man. He struck one from the high class who was oppressing his people from the low class. And he killed that man. He knew he messed up. That goes against the rule. He knew that although he was from the high class, he wasn't a boss like the high class people, the certain people of that class. He wasn't exactly like them. Okay, so Musa knew he had a certain place. So when he killed that man, he knew that was a big no-no. You transgress beyond bounds. So Musa ran, and there's a point in all this. Just bear with me. Musa ran. So that fight, if you want to see that fight, you will go to Surah 28, ayah 15 to ayah 17. For that fight where he struck that man. And he fled. And somebody had told him, the people of Pharaoh, they're going to be coming after you. They're going to be coming after you. So Musa ran. So when he ran far, far away. So now, he lost his riches. He lost his comforts. He lost his connections. Everything that he grew up under, gone. So now he has no position. And he's just running, know not what to do. Till he comes upon some women with his good character, he decides to help them. The father of these girls wanted Musa to marry his daughter. You will find that in Surah 28, ayahs 26 to ayah 28. So Musa marries. He does some work for the man over a course of years. He marries, and has a family. Now Musa has a family. Look at this. Musa has a family. He has wife. I remember if he had kids, it sort of gives that type of understanding. He had a bait. He had a household. Okay. So they're traveling, and Musa and his family's traveling. He says, "Wait, I have to go get right." He says, "I have to go get some." So he sees a fire far off. Right. The point I want to make is this: Musa didn't have to go back to his people. Musa could have ignored right then and there. When Musa ran away, Musa could have ignored the plight of his own people. Musa had a family, had a new life. He may not be in high class, but he had his own family to worry about. Right? So he'd be like, I'm not going to worry about my people that's way over there going through whatever. Right? I'll just worry about my immediate family. And that's it. But that's two things, see? Musa didn't have the mentality, I'm just worried about only my family. Only mine. Because you find some people growing up, that's all they worry about. Oh, it's just about my family. It ain't about nobody else. It ain't about the people. It's about my family only. Forget everybody else. Who cares? See? So Musa, he could have been worried about his family only. Just like he could have not even did that situation where he hit the Egyptian. He could have just stayed rich and not even worried about his people. He could have just worried about himself. Say, I'm rich, I got it made. It doesn't matter. But no, he didn't do that. So he's with his family now. He went to the fire. He saw this fire, and then he heard a voice telling him, basically, I am Allah. You're in the valley of KHUTBA, etc., right? Here's the thing I want to point out, though. Allah says in another part of the Quran, He does not speak to anybody except in three ways. One, through sending of a messenger. One, through that He speaks behind a hijabin. And the Arabic word hijabin is hijab, which means a barrier, right? Or by direct inspiration. That's the third way, direct inspiration, right? So, but the one I want to point out is the one where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He doesn't speak to anybody except through, and one of the ways, one of the three is through, behind a hijab, which means barrier, right? Now that barrier could be the sky, like the sky right there, and you hear a voice come from it. That's a hijab. That barrier could be a tree. If a voice comes from the tree, Allah creates a voice for you to hear His message in the open from a tree. That is a hijab. In this case, it was the fire. Musa saw a fire, and he heard a voice come. It was a voice that was created from the fire. Musa heard it, and Allah spoke to him through that hijab. Right? Oh, Musa, he talks to Musa. So, if you want, I believe, Surah 20, was it? Surah 20, ayat 24. Surah 20, ayat 24 is where you will find that incident, I believe. And in that same incident, that's the incident where Allah tells Musa to go to Pharaoh. So this happens after the time where He says, what is, Musa had a stick, and Allah told him to throw the stick down, and, it turned into the snake and everything. And Allah gave him his bayanati. Allah gave him his proofs for him to go to Pharaoh, right? So at this time, He points Musa, who had already proven in his mind that he was willing to go out there to help his people. He was willing to go out there to help the oppressed. And so because he was willing to do that, and he went through his tests, having to run in fear, being on the run for a long time, then Allah, through His good character, him remaining patient, and through His good character, Allah married him, put it inside the heart of a person to marry Allah put inside somebody's heart to marry the man's daughters to Musa, which gave him a family. Right? Now he's instructed, you go back to Pharaoh to tell him my message. And he tells him that, my Lord, they have a charge against me. I fear they may kill me. Right? But Allah still gives him the proofs and tells him to go anyway. Right? He was willing, remember, before this. But now he's like, they're going to kill me. So Allah strengthens him with his brother Aaron, his backup. Right? He gives him the backup. Right? Gives him the bayanati. Says, go to Pharaoh, speak to them. Right? So he goes to Pharaoh. Now this is important. He goes to Pharaoh. When he goes to Pharaoh, there's a conversation that happens. And this is a mentality, this is like a class mentality that's happening. If a person studies sociology or social psychology or epigenetics, right, you will realize that there's a certain process that goes throughout nature of something on the outer that influences something that's inward, right? That principle. In this case, he's from a certain class, and there's a certain level of gratefulness Musa is supposed to have, supposedly. So there's an exchange between the two. I believe that's in Surah 26. Surah 26, ayats 20 to 31. Surah 26, ayat 20 to 31. You'll find this conversation taking place. So, and you might have to go before even ayat 20, right? But it starts at Surah 26, ayat 20, where I'll start at to 31, and you can go before that. Check the whole conversation. But, so, what ends up happening is, Musa goes to Pharaoh. He speaks to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says this to him. He says, we grew you up amongst us. Right? He's trying to impress on him. This is important. We grew you up amongst us. We did all these good things for you. We did this stuff. And this is how you treat us? This is how you repay us back? This is the type of stuff you do back in this society? Right? So he's impressing on Musa, we did you a favor. We rose you up. We gave you the best, basically, for me to ad-lib, we gave you the best clothes. We gave you the best food. We gave you the best learning. We gave you the best of the best. You're right up under Pharaoh. You're the best of the best. And you, being ungrateful, you gonna sit there and you gonna kill one of my men to question my authority? Basically, you make me look like a fool. You make this class look like we don't know what we're doing. Right? There's a lot of different mentalities that go into that. So Pharaoh's trying to impress a mentality of, this is what we did for you. We did nothing wrong to you. Right? Now usually that's true. See, a sellout, a person who switches up on helping his people, he would believe like that too. He'd be like, well, man, you're doing good. I got it made. I don't know what oppression is. What you talking about oppression? What oppression? We all, I made it. Right? So that's mentality. But Musa responds back to him. He said, yes, I did kill a man. Right? I did kill a man. But remember this. Musa really in a way was forced to live with Pharaoh because of the circumstances of Pharaoh killing the people. See, Pharaoh was killing the people, the lower class. Pharaoh was killing the children of Israel. He was killing the boys. So through that circumstance of oppression, Musa had to be separated from his people. So is that really a favor? Right? So Musa says to him what? Before I continue, I'm going to say this. Because even in today, there's a lot of, there's some blacks that do make it to a certain extent. But most of the time they make it based upon an aspect of oppression that's going on in this society, and oppression that's going on among the people. You can hear stories about how people are being oppressed and they go join the military just to get away. See, they get some type of financial gain, some funds, and then they can, take that, if they really even make it like that, to be able to build a life. But that was given to them through a circumstance of oppression. See, that's not a favor when you're oppressing a people and they finding the ways and means to have to survive, and then they make it, and then you want to say you did them a favor. No, you did it because it was through oppression. It'd be different if it was an equal playing field for everybody. See? So, in any case, Pharaoh wanted to press on him. We rose you up. We did all these things. You got the best of the best. Basically saying you're crazy. This is how could you do this? And you killed a man. You killed one of our men. And Musa admitted, he said, yes. He said, I killed a man. Right? And I did it while I was in ignorance. Right? But then he reverts it back. He debates back to Pharaoh. He says, and this is the favor that you have did to me, that you have enslaved the children of Israel? Basically saying, is this the favor that you're speaking of? You oppress my people. You kill my people. You do all this stuff to my people. Is this the favor that you're really trying to say? Is that the favor? So he reverted back. Instead of being selfish, Musa thought of his people. He said that I'm part of my people's part of me. You oppress them, you're oppressing me. Right? You see? So, Musa has the mentality, which is different from another person that I'm going to mention, named Korah. The Quran mentions a man by the name of Korah. Right? Korah is an Israelite too. Korah is from those people too. Korah is from that class, them people that was poor too. But Korah had a sellout mentality. Korah loved the Egyptian high class. Korah loved those who was rich. Korah wanted to be like those in richness. Right? So he despises people. But we'll get to that. So Musa says to Pharaoh, is this the favor in which you have given me, that you've enslaved the children of Israel? Now later on, Pharaoh's going to demand what? Let the children of Israel go. Right? And Pharaoh's going to have a big old problem with that. So, a third time I'm going to say it. So Musa tells Pharaoh, is this the favor that you have done for me, that you have enslaved the children of Israel, that you've oppressed the children of Israel? Right? Because he's linked with his people. Even if he got separated to another class, at the end of the day, check this out, when he killed that Egyptian, when he killed that man, the red dot was put on him to take his life. You see, he wasn't really part of the high class like most people would think they are. Because the minute he did something that went against the high class, the minute he did something that any high class could have done, you can best believe if another Egyptian would have killed that Egyptian, or another person of the high class would have killed that person of the high class, the penalty would not be as stiff. But since it was Musa, whom the high class knew is from another people and another class originally, his penalty was more stiffer. Because he's still from them people. It doesn't matter how high you get into a society of a class that oppresses you. You still will be looked upon as the same, especially if you violate the privilege that them people have over your head. Doesn't matter how much you have, because your recognition comes through what they have. Doesn't come through who you are. So you're not on the equal playing field. So what ends up happening is Musa is standing up for his people. Musa is standing up for his people, although he's from a high class. He's standing up for those who are in the hood, in the ghetto, in the gritty, the nitty gritty, right? Although he could have been an Uncle Tom, or not Uncle Tom, a Sambo, a sellout. He could have been that. He could have just said, I don't care about all that. I got my money. You know what I'm saying? I got my treasures. Yeah, it's all good with me. Y'all going through that. I'm not going through that. See? However, there is another person named Korah. Now Korah, he was an Israelite. He was from the people. But over the course of time of whatever riches he accumulated. And you can find this in Surah 28, ayats 76 to ayats 82. Surah 28, ayat 76 to ayats 82. Korah, he was from the people, right? And Korah had treasures. He had wealth, you know. Korah was pretty well to do. But it says that Korah had a different mentality than Moses. Now remember, Moses is high class. Moses come from that. He's rich, but he's concerned about his people. He may not be exactly like his people. He may not grown up speaking the vernacular as people, or the slang, or whatever, but he's for his people. But Korah also is wealthy. Korah is more like a hustler who flipped his money, and spiraled himself to become something rich. But Korah hates his people. So Korah loves Pharaoh. Korah stands with Pharaoh. And Korah plots and plans against Musa and the children of Israel. He plots and plans against his own people. And today you got people like that amongst our people too. They grew up in the grit. They grew up in the grimy. They grew up in the hood. They grew up in the ghetto. They see all the struggles of their people. They pimp on their people. They hustle their people. And then when a chance for some revolutionary action occurs, for a person to come from who may have lived pretty good, right? Korah, the Sambo, Korah, the sellout, Korah in love with his wealth, Korah in love with his treasures, decides to sell his own people out and sides with the high class Pharaoh and goes against his people. See that? Goes against Musa. And what's funny is this: Musa still he still was compassionate with that sellout. When the children of Israel finally left, Korah, because I believe one of the main ones who, when they was traveling, started trying to lead the children of Israel astray. So you got a lot of people. My point is this: a person may grow up in the hood, a person may be a hustler, may be a struggler, and he may got himself, together and he got money or whatever. And in the end, when somebody who might have came from the suburbs, somebody who might have came from a well-to-do area, who didn't grow up among his people, he's still compassionate about his people though. Tries their best to put their life on the line for their people. You see? So my point in all this is this: look, whether a person comes from the high class, whether a person knows your full struggle, if the person from your people in a different class comes to help you, don't be trying to clown them. Don't be trying to talk about how come you talk proper, or why you trying to talk slang, you don't sound right, or your energy not right. You see? They trying to help. They feel the compassion. They could have just been like, whatever. I don't even care about whatever. See what I'm saying? Whereas the person who grew up with you, up in the hood, knows the struggles, seen you go through it, was with there with you. Hey, they finally see the chance to be able to, somebody come along and help. And that same person gonna become a hater. That same person trying to tear you down. I'm not talking about everybody from the hood do that, but I'm saying there's real haters who got money. And they come from where you come from, but their spirit and their heart ain't the same. See what I'm saying? Their spirit ain't like yours. Their heart ain't like yours. They seen the pain you guys go through, y'all go through. They been right there thick and thin. They don't care about you. They care about their money. So they sell out. See? So not everybody that comes to you from where you from can talk like how you talk and went through what you went through and broke bread and all that. In the end, they not for the struggle. They not for the cause. They sell out. And just because they can speak your vernacular, just because they can speak your slang, just because they can make better references to where y'all came from and when y'all ran here and how y'all did this and how y'all did that, it don't mean they not no sellout. It don't mean that they not no Sambo. See? And they could be trying to sound all whatever they want to sound like. But then you got a brother who's coming from somewhere, he ain't go through all that struggle. But he, he's well to do. He's got some finances. See what I'm saying? And he's trying to try too hard. He's trying to sound like how y'all sound in the hood and everything. Because he's trying to get that feel in with his people. You see? He missed out on what he think he missed out. You can't fault there and look at him like, man, please, man. Man, for real? See what I'm saying? Nah, don't do that. He want to help. Then he's with you then. See? He's with you then. He's for you then. And you don't know what he might be able to show you to help y'all make y'all migration so that y'all can build a new place or get something really going on. See? So don't be so limited to how you grew up in this oppression. You see? To the slang and the the vernacular, or however you want to call it. Don't be so limited. Expand your horizons. You see, at the end of all this, Musa was able to lead his people away from captivity, and Musa was the one Allah had anointed to be able to do that. See? So, my whole point is, just because they don't speak like you speak, and just because they ain't got the same energy that you got, and just because they don't sound like how you sound, and just because they can't relate to all the historical things that went through with the people, and just because they sound, it may sound weird, it may sound, the way they talk just don't fit all the way. The action that they are trying to help is where the help is at. It's the real benefit. We got to stop being so limited in our thinking, because really, our culture was born through oppression. Our culture was born through what we had to go through under this beast. What we had to go through, and it's not just here in the United States. All across the world, wherever our people may be, they go through different levels of oppression. But here's the last point. The pharaohs of the world, they purposely divide our people into classes. See, they purposely divide our people into classes. Most of us, in the hood, the ghetto. Few of us, they pick us out, and they give us this so-called proper way of talking. They give us the oppressor's way of talking, the oppressor's way of thinking. And they say, you're better than them. See? They try to put into their mind, you better than them, than your people. You with us. So anytime I need some help for you to do what you're going to do, you help me. Feel grateful. Feel grateful. Feel grateful. Don't be ungrateful. You didn't have a hard life. See? And so they try to use that to you to feel different from your people so that you won't align with your people because you didn't go through some of the same struggles your people did. But Musa was very smart, alhamdulillah. Before he was even made a prophet, he said, no, that's oppression. That's my people. And he went to defend his own. And alhamdulillah, Allah chose him and anointed him and made him a prophet and gave him the bayanati, gave him the proofs, made him in the end, his struggle, he may not went through what the hood went through, see, but his struggle in the end was freeing his people. And that's the fire and struggle and test that he had to go through. Because he had to come to a hard head. He had to come to a hard head people. You see? He had to come to a hard head people. So that was his test. So all them hood tests that his people had gone through, all that oppression his people went through, whether it was the anger, the sad, the pain, you know what I'm saying, the hurt, all those things went to his people being hard-headed. So Musa in the end had to go through it too, because his people was causing him hard-headedness. So Musa didn't escape the struggles that his people went through because his own people, their hard-headedness, because of their struggle, Musa had to deal with that as a prophet, trying to guide them and lead them up out of captivity. See? So that was his test in the end. He didn't really truly escape. So, whether they're high class, at the end of the day, I'm going to end this, whether it's a high class brother, or what you want to call a high class, a person that grew up well-to-do or whatever, or grew out in the suburbs, or the high suburbs, or it's a brother that's in the hood, grew up in the ghetto, up in the gritty, you know what I'm saying? However he grew up, if they want to help, let them help. So, the brother that talk proper shouldn't look down on the brother that don't talk proper. And the brother that don't talk proper shouldn't look down on the brother that do talk proper. But they should both use both of their tools. See? Whether they proper sounding or non-proper sounding, whatever culture they come out of, they should use all of that as a strength to unite their people and to get them free from under captivity and oppression. So, those principles I just mentioned, you can use that in any situation where there's a class divide, even if it ain't about, even if you take it out of the structure of the society of race, you can use it in class or whatever. Different parts, you can unite them in order to help you become liberated and free. Inshallah. So, praise and glory belongs to Allah, the Eternal Absolute, who guides us, gives us understanding, hikmah. Allah, who is Al-Hadi, the guide, who guides the hearts of his servants. Allah, who puts hikmah, wisdom into the hearts of his servants. Allah, who gives knowledge to his servants. Allah, who is the teacher of his servants. Praise and glory belongs to Allah, who is Al-Qahar, who is dominant over those who claim that they're the high class or those who claim they're the low class. Because to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's just helping those who need the help. Allah is indeed the aider of those who need help. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. If you are healthy, may Allah bless you with more health. And if you are not healthy, may Allah give you health. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Y'all have a good day indeed.